House number 1. This one's in Grantsville, West Virginia. 26,000 square feet, 4 bathrooms, built in 1923. Listed at $225,000, under $9 a square foot for a building the size of a small castle. Look at the front facade. Cut stone construction. 2 fortress-like towers flanking a central arched entrance. Rows of tall windows lined up in rigid symmetry across all 3 floors. Red painted panels sit where original glass used to be boarded up sections standing in place of windows the building has already lost. It doesn't look like a school. It looks like something built to keep people either in or out. That's because this was the Calhoun County Red Devils school building home to generations of students for over 73 years straight. Nearly 3/4 of a century of children walked through that stone archway before the doors finally closed for good. Step back and look at that entrance again. A heavy stone arch frames double wooden doors, worn dark, with a single security camera bolted above them, the only visibly modern object on the entire building. Air conditioning units jut awkwardly out of upper floor windows, mismatched additions grafted onto a structure built a century before central air was standard. It's the kind of contrast that makes a building feel frozen between 2 very different eras of use. Now go inside. One of the classrooms has been stripped down to nothing. Plaster ceiling collapsing in long, jagged sheets, exposed metal conduit and pipe running bare across the top of the room, teal green paint peeling off cinder block walls beneath white paint that's flaking away in its own layers. The floor is buried in broken plaster and construction debris. A piece of graffiti marked wood scrap lying discarded near the center. This was a room full of children once, and now it's just rubble and daylight coming through boarded windows. Here's what the listing is upfront about. The current owners already invested in a brand new roof membrane and repaired the ceiling support beams on the top floor, meaning the 2 things most likely to cause total structural failure have already been addressed. Original hardwood floors run throughout the main building, still there, just waiting to be refinished under a century of wear. And the listing specifically states no reported asbestos. In a building built in 1923, that's not a small detail. That's often the single biggest hidden cost in a restoration project this size, and here it's explicitly ruled out. But there's a catch built right into the sale itself. The listing requires proof of funds before anyone can even view the property. That's not a normal walk-through listing, that's a filter, built to keep out anyone who isn't seriously capitalized enough to take on a 26,000 square foot stone institution. The realtor pitches a long list of what this could become: a bed and breakfast, an event space, a museum, or, in its own words, a beautiful castle-style home. 4 completely different futures for one building, and every single one of them would require converting an entire former school hallways, classrooms, stone towers, and all into something that's never existed here before. 2 acres of land with road frontage on every side. 3 full stories of cut stone construction built to outlast anything. 73 years of one town's children passing through those same doors. $225,000 for 26,000 square feet, proof that in rural West Virginia, an entire piece of American small town history can still cost less than an ordinary house in most major cities. If you're willing to walk in with proof, you can actually finish what generations of students left behind. House number 2. 1201 North Main Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,981 square feet, built in 1889. Listed at $77,000, sitting directly on Main Street inside one of North Carolina's largest historic districts. Look at the exterior first. White clapboard siding, peeling in long strips down to bare gray wood, a deep red metal roof capping the whole structure. Wraparound porches extend off both sides of the house. Turned wood columns holding up the roofline, red brick porch piers standing at odd intervals like the only solid thing left in the whole facade. Overgrown shrubs and weeds crowd the front steps, a cracked concrete walkway leading up to a dark green double door. Walk onto the side porch, and the wood planking is warped and buckling in long waves, sunlight cutting hard shadows across the boards. A pair of French-style doors, painted the same dark green, sit at the corner of the house, weathered and streaked. One ornate wood column, carved in white, still stands under the far end of the roof, the last piece of gingerbread trim this porch has left. Here's the actual situation with this house. It's mid-restoration. The listing says plainly that work was already underway and some of it has been completed, meaning somebody started this project, made real progress, and then stopped, leaving the house frozen between decay and repair. That's the state you're buying into, not a total ruin and not a finished home, but something paused in the middle. And there's a financial detail here that changes the math entirely. This property is eligible for North Carolina tax preservation credits. That's a real state-backed incentive specifically designed to offset the cost of restoring historic properties like this one, meaning the true cost of finishing this house isn't just the $77,000 purchase price plus renovation. Part of that renovation can come back in tax credits, which is not something every historic property qualifies for. The location does a lot of the selling here too. This house sits directly on Main Street in Tarboro, inside one of the largest historic districts in the entire state of North Carolina, a town built around exactly this kind of wide porch, slow southern afternoon. Neighbors visiting neighbors, atmosphere the listing leans into hard. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, wraparound porches on 2 sides, 136 years of history, and a direct financial incentive to bring it back to life. $77,000 for a house already partway through its own resurrection. Sitting on the most historic street in one of the South's most preserved small towns, proof that sometimes the biggest spooky house bargains aren't the ones falling apart from neglect, but the ones somebody already started saving and never got to finish. House number 3, 808 Central Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. 19 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, roughly 10,000 square feet, built in 1890. It last sold for $445,000, sitting on 0.69 acres in the Van Wyck Brooks Historic District. Look at the exterior first. Yellow brick colonial revival construction. A rounded corner turret with brick dentil trim wrapping just below the roofline. Small triangular pediment dormers punching through the top floor. A covered porticoker tucked to one side. Snow is banked up against the foundation in the listing photo, evergreen shrubs pressed right against the windows. It's a stately, formal shape, nothing gothic about it from the street, just quiet, dense, old money brick. 19 bedrooms. 11 bathrooms. That's not a family home, that's the scale of a small hotel, and the listing says exactly that. It's pitched with real income potential as a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb in a building the size of an actual institution. Walk into the hallway, and the ceiling tells the real story. Plaster hangs down in ragged brown sheets, water-stained and collapsing. An ornate brass chandelier still hanging directly beneath the worst of the damage, like nobody dared take it down. Below it, rows of stackable banquet chairs sit lined up against dark wood paneling, the kind of folding chairs you'd expect in a rented event hall, not a private residence. Deep patterned carpet runs the length of the corridor, worn and stained, leading toward a wood-paneled archway further into the house. Now go into one of the front rooms. Same ceiling damage, plaster peeling directly above an enormous carved wood fireplace mantel with an oval mirror built into the overmantel, genuinely elaborate millwork, the kind you don't see reproduced today. A tile hearth sits below it, cast iron radiator running the length of the bay window behind it. Floral wallpaper, water damaged and curling near the ceiling line, covers every wall. This room is simultaneously one of the most beautiful and most deteriorated spaces in the entire house. Here's what the listing states. Flat out, no softening. As is. Cash buyers only. The property can only be viewed externally drive-by only. No interior walkthrough before purchase. Buyers are responsible for obtaining their own town certifications. That's about as bare bones and risk-loaded as a real estate listing gets. Nobody is walking through this house before writing a check for it. And the price history backs up how uncertain this property has been. It was listed at $450,000 in mid-2023, pulled off the market, relisted in August 2024 at $399,999, then sold 2 months later for $445,000, an 11% jump over asking in a matter of weeks. Zillow's current zestimate on the property sits at just over $1 million, more than double what it actually sold for. That's the kind of gap that shows up when a building's condition scares off far more buyers than its underlying value would suggest. Original wood floors, crown molding, pocket doors, vintage stained glass windows lighting an elaborate main stairwell, several bedrooms with their own fireplaces all still present throughout the building, a large commercial kitchen attached to a formal dining room, sized for exactly the kind of event or hospitality business the listing keeps circling back to. 19 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, a 135-year-old chandelier hanging under a collapsing ceiling, $1 million zestimate on a house that sold for less than half of that, sight unseen, cash only, drive-by only, $445,000 for one of the largest single-family structures in Plainfield's most historic district, and a warning built directly into its own listing that nobody gets to see inside it before they own it. House number 4, 20 West Central Avenue, Delaware, Ohio, 8,501 square feet, built in 1878, listed at $299,000, sitting on just under half an acre in the heart of downtown. Look at the exterior first. Deep red brick, 3 full stories, with 2 square towers rising off the roofline, each capped with a steep pyramid roof and ornate carved brackets underneath. Tall arched windows repeat in pairs across every floor, trimmed in contrasting sandstone. A columned entry porch sits at ground level, and mounted right beside the door is a small plaque visible in one photo reading 5th District Court of Appeals. Because before anything else, this building was a working jailhouse and courthouse. Locking cells. That's not a rumor or a marketing gimmick. The listing itself specifically points to the building's original jail cells as part of what's still there today. This is a 147-year-old structure that once held prisoners behind bars, sitting in the middle of downtown Delaware, currently marketed as office space. The listing calls it, straightforwardly, a unique office building a historic 3-story brick jailhouse, now positioned as a creative office opportunity. That's the strange tension running through the whole property. A building engineered to confine people is now being sold on the basis of open floor plans and downtown foot traffic. Air conditioning units jut out of several upper floor windows, practical modern additions bolted onto arched brick openings that have been there since the 1870s. The building's scale alone, 8,500 square feet across 3 stories, puts it well beyond a typical historic home. This was built as an institution, with the structural bones to match. Zillow doesn't even have a zestimate on this one. No square footage estimate, no comparable sales data, nothing. It shows up as fundamentally unclassifiable. Home type simply listed as unknown. That's rare. Most historic properties still get slotted into some category. This building's past use was so specific court and jail that Zillow's own algorithm doesn't know what to call it. 0 bedrooms, 0 bathrooms listed, because this was never built to be a home in the first place. Parking is available on site, half an acre of land in the middle of a walkable downtown, in a market where new listings in the zip code are moving in a matter of days. $299,000 for 8,500 square feet of actual, functioning 19th century jailhouse cell doors, courthouse plaque, and all sitting in the middle of small-town Ohio, waiting for someone to decide whether it becomes an office, a museum, or something in between. House number 5, 7 Sen, Columbia Street, Lafayette, Indiana, built in 1863. known historically as the Zinn-Fitzgerald House. And this one comes with a genuine before and after story, because this exact building sold twice, once as a ruin and once as a finished home. Start with the before. When this house first hit the market, it was listed at $170,000, roughly 4,700 square feet, and the listing didn't sugarcoat anything. It needed, in its own words, everything plumbing, electrical, roof, windows, walls, cash only, proof of funds required, because no bank was going to touch a project this far gone. Look at what that actually looked like inside. Bare plaster walls stripped down to pink and white patchwork, ceiling joists exposed overhead with no drywall covering them at all, warped wood floorboards, buckled and gapped, an arched doorway leading into total darkness, another doorway opening straight onto exposed brick with no wall finish whatsoever. This was a house that had been stripped back to its skeleton 3 floors of raw structure, waiting for someone with real capital and real patience. And this house has history beyond just its age. From 1912 to 1943, it operated as the Lafayette Conservatory of Music, 3 decades of scales and rehearsals echoing through these same rooms, back when the building still had a functioning purpose in the community rather than sitting as a preservation project. It's also designated by the Wabash Valley Trust for historic preservation, meaning its exterior profile and historic character are legally protected going forward. Now here's the after. This same address sold again for $550,000, over 3 times its previous sale price. 3 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, 3,510 square feet of finished living space, completely transformed. Look at the exterior now. The same distinctive 3-story tower with its mansard roof and patterned slate shingles is still there. The bones of the original 1863 structure haven't changed. But everything's been repainted in crisp white with charcoal gray trim, a new pair of wood and glass double doors installed at the entrance, fresh mortar and brick pointing visible throughout. The silhouette is unmistakably the same building. The finish is night and day. Inside, it's an entirely different world. Wide plank hardwood floors run throughout an open concept kitchen and living space, recessed lighting overhead, a kitchen island with pendant lighting, a gas fireplace with a clean white surround in the living room, 9+ foot ceilings, beamed detailing, a soaking tub. Dual vanities. This is a full luxury renovation layered directly on top of a 160-year-old shell. 2 gas fireplaces total, central air, natural gas, forced air heating, all systems the original house never had. Financially, the numbers moved just as dramatically as the interior did. Zillow's estimate on the finished property now sits at $585,200, a 270% increase over just the last 10 years. Annual taxes, $3,507 on a house now assessed at $663,600. That's the real story of this one. A stripped, gutted 1863 conservatory building sold for $170,000 to someone willing to take on plumbing, electrical, roofing, and walls from scratch, and on the other side of that renovation, a $550,000 historic home with modern luxury finishes wrapped inside the same protected century-and-a-half-old brick shell. Sometimes the spookiest house on the list is also the best proof that these old bones can come all the way back. House number 6, the Bonnyconnellan Castle, 105 North Walnut Avenue, Sidney, Ohio, 22 rooms, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, 104 square feet, built in 1891. Currently valued around $286,800. Look at the tower first. Rounded stone turret rising off the corner of the house, built from rough-cut limestone blocks stacked in visible horizontal courses, curved window bays following the shape of the tower itself. Small carved stone finials sit at the top like tiny castle battlements. This wasn't styled to look vaguely medieval. It was built specifically to replicate a real castle in County Cork, Ireland, at the direct request of the original owner. That owner was John D. Laughlin, who ran the Sidney School Furniture Company and the Mary L. Poultry Company. He didn't hire an architect to design something Victorian adjacent. He gave specifications modeled after an actual Irish castle and had it built here, in small-town Ohio, in 1886. Here's the strangest detail in the whole listing. The original interior woodwork, the custom-carved banisters, the room-by-room varied hardwood floors, was stripped out of the house entirely and taken off-site at some point during hard times. But the listing states it's been located and can be purchased separately by whoever wants to complete an accurate historical renovation. That means the house's original soul isn't gone. It's sitting somewhere else, waiting to be bought back and reinstalled into the exact rooms it was carved for. Walk into what's left, and the current furnishings only add to the strangeness. A gold-painted statue of a nude woman stands on an ornate carved wood chest in one hallway, positioned like a museum piece nobody's cataloged. Beside it, a massive dark wood framed painting leans against the wall, half hidden behind other furniture. A crystal chandelier lies dismantled on the floor nearby, its arms disconnected and laid out like parts waiting for reassembly. Looking down from the upper landing, you can see a Victorian marble fireplace mantel below, carved wood columns, tall wingback chairs, genuine period pieces, mixed randomly with decor that doesn't seem to belong to any single era. In another room, tall arched windows are trimmed in dark wood with amber-stained glass transoms glowing above them. A crystal chandelier hangs from the ceiling. An antique tufted white settee sits along the wall, a black wooden rocking chair beside it, ornate marble-topped tables scattered throughout. It's genuinely beautiful and also completely disorganized, like nobody's fully moved in or fully moved out. Behind the main house sits a 30 by 50 foot carriage house, large enough to be practically its own separate structure. And the listing is honest that this place needs real investment to stop further decline, calling the disrepair out directly, while still insisting it's not too late to bring the castle back to what it once was. 22 rooms. A tower modeled after an actual Irish castle. Original woodwork stripped out and sitting somewhere else, purchasable separately for anyone patient enough to reunite it with the house it came from. A gold statue standing guard next to a dismantled chandelier. This is one of the strangest restoration stories on the list, a genuine castle reproduction in Ohio, half furnished with real antiques and half hollowed of its own original bones, waiting for someone to put both back together. House number 7. The Marsh House. Grinnell, Iowa. 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, 2,372 square feet, built in 1900, listed at $315,000. Look at the exterior first. Teal blue shingled siding with deep red-orange trim, a round turret with a witch's cap conical roof rising off one corner, a smaller matching turret tucked beside it. A wraparound porch with turned red columns sits below a second-floor balcony framed in decorative red spindlework. It's textbook late Queen Anne Victorian vivid, layered, almost storybook in its color scheme. Unlike most of the houses on this list, this one isn't decaying. It's been lovingly restored, and the listing is upfront about exactly what that restoration involved. A new roof in 2010, fresh exterior paint, and much of the original siding replaced. All rooms have been replastered. Plumbing and wiring have both been fully updated. This is what these Victorian mansions look like on the other side of full, careful preservation, not stripped down, not gutted, just genuinely brought back to life. Walk inside, and the front parlor sets the tone immediately. Deep burgundy furniture, a tufted sofa, a wingback chair sits on a rich oriental rug in matching red and cream tones. A dark carved wood cabinet stands against the far wall, ornately paneled, with a decorative iron transom bracket hanging above the doorway beside it. A crystal chandelier casts warm light across polished oak flooring. Every piece of furniture in this room looks selected specifically to match the house's original 1900 character rather than modernize it. Now look at the stained glass. A half-circle transom window sits above a rectangular stained glass panel below it, done in teal, amber, and deep red glass, patterned with a floral wreath motif. It's positioned at a stairwell landing, meaning anyone walking up to the second floor passes directly through colored light filtering through handset glass that's 125 years old. The listing details a genuinely well-preserved layout, inlaid oak flooring in the foyer, a wood-burning fireplace with an ornate mantel, quarter-sawn oak floors running through the parlor, home office, formal dining room, and living room. A renovated kitchen with solid surface counters and wood cabinetry. Upstairs, an owner's suite with its own full bath, 2 more bedrooms, a second full bathroom, a second fireplace, and notably a second staircase at the back of the house, the kind of detail that hints at how servants or staff once moved through homes like this separately from the family. There's also a walk-up attic, a full basement, a non-conforming bedroom, and a workshop space plenty of untouched or flexible square footage beyond the finished main living areas. Outside, both a front and back porch, plus what the listing calls an iconic cupola, the small crowning tower visible from the street that makes this house instantly recognizable in town. 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, 2 fireplaces, 2 staircases, and stained glass original to the turn of the last century, all sitting inside a genuinely restored, move-in-ready Victorian jewel. $315,000 for the Marsh House, proof that not every eerie, atmospheric, old Victorian on this list needs saving. Some of them have already been saved, and they're just waiting for someone who wants to live inside the history instead of renovating it. House number 8. The Castle House. Keene, New York in the Adirondacks. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 1,920 square feet, built in 1890. Listed at $575,000. Look at the exterior first. Nearly all black shingled siding covers all 3 stories. Deep charcoal against a bright blue sky, with white trimmed windows punching through in stark contrast. A tall rectangular tower rises off the front corner, arched windows stacked up its face, capped with ornate white gingerbread bracketing under the eaves. 2 full-length porches wrap the front of the house, one stacked directly above the other, dark spindle railings running the length of both. It's genuinely striking, a Victorian silhouette rendered almost entirely in shadow. Step inside and the transformation is immediate. Every surface in the main sitting room is dark wood coffered ceiling paneling laid in a diamond parquet pattern, matching diamond paneling running up the walls. Dark wood columns with carved capitals framing the room. 3 tall arched windows let daylight in, but the wood swallows most of it, leaving the room lit mostly by a hanging brass chandelier. Deep red patterned rugs cover the floor, leather and plaid upholstered furniture arranged around a low coffee table. The listing itself is right to call this a work of craftsmanship parquet wood, covering floor, wall, and ceiling simultaneously in one room, is not something you find in any house built after this era. Here's where the history gets interesting. This building has cycled through completely different identities over the last 60 years. In the 1960s and 70s, it operated as Skyline Outfitters, a mountaineering supply store. Later, it became a boutique craft beer and gift shop. Today, it serves as the headquarters for a contracting firm and simultaneously operates as a successful vacation rental property. That's 4 distinct business identities layered inside one Victorian house since the mid-20th century, and the town has zoned it to legally continue operating as both commercial and residential space. The restoration here was done in direct partnership with the local historic society, meaning this wasn't just a private renovation. It was overseen with input from people specifically responsible for preserving Keene's architectural history. Plaster murals still decorate the dining room. Original period staircases remain intact. And underneath all that preserved detail, the listing confirms every practical system has been fully replaced. New roof, new electric, new plumbing, new bathrooms, new furnace, new septic, stainless appliances in the kitchen. This is a house wearing its original 1890 face over a completely modern set of bones. The property backs directly onto Gulf Brook, a scenic mountain stream running through the yard, with the Adirondack peaks rising directly behind the whole village in the aerial shot dense forest, layered mountain ridgelines. The kind of setting that makes this house feel less like a village landmark and more like a fortress standing at the edge of the wilderness. 3 bedrooms. An active vacation rental income stream. A contracting firm currently headquartered inside it, a mountain brook in the backyard, and a dark parquet paneled sitting room that looks like it belongs in a mystery novel. $575,000 for the Castle House, a genuine Adirondack Village landmark that spent 60 years becoming whatever the town around it needed next, while never losing the black Victorian silhouette that gave it its name.